Hey everybody, this is On, and I'm coming to you with the code insights for 2023 on world events. And I always like to separate these out from my regular channel just because there are people on the regular channel that aren't interested in the world insights. And so this is kind of nice. And there are people that are very interested in this, but they may not want to be seen on the other channel. Hey, whatever works for somebody is good, and that's okay. And all of these insights actually come from my book, which I put out every year, The Code Journey. And this is the 2023 edition. I'm currently working on the 2024 edition. You can pick up this book, by the way, over on my website at compassioncodes.com. And you'll see a tab that says goods, and then under that, the code journey. And so it's very easy. The links are on there for you to get directly to the order pages on there. But every year I put this together. It's like a spiritual almanac, and it covers things that will come up for us in our daily lives. So it's kind of like that personal journey work and daily insights of where the currents are at and what's happening. It has the lunar cycles and angel influences and things like that in it. But I also cover world events. So I also cover up insights that are going to connect with things that are happening in our world. And it's always fun and kind of interesting to me, especially with world events, because you get this really cool validation. I write these things a good year in advance of what they're happening. I have no clue what's going to be going on at that point, but they always seem to kind of match up, which is an interesting piece. So I wanted to get this month's video out and give you some insights for what is coming up in March, what is going to be going on with that. And we have a really big theme, whether it's the personal life or world events. And this big theme that's coming up in March, and a lot of these will also spill over into April as well. So we want to kind of take this advice, even though April will have some of its own unique currents as well. And of course, I'll address that next month. But escaping reality is a really huge one. And matter of fact, I did some great point and tips on this on my regular channel, just Jessie on Nichols George, for you to take a look at and see and deal with how those feelings come up. But when we look at this in the sense of a world events, escaping reality is going to show us that we're likely in our world events to be seeing higher suicides. Now, whether those are real suicides or otherwise, in most cases, I think there will be a lot of real suicides going on versus those versus murders that appear to look like suicides. And we all know where we're going with that, I think, because that happens too. How many people have been listed as committing suicide and they didn't? But there is this big desire to escape reality. So that energy is very present. And this is going to come up through also drug overdoses, people falling back into addictions and drinking and drugs, and that can be sexual addictions, it can be food addictions, it can be addictions to people or situations that aren't healthy for us. And so when we consider this aspect, this is going to be a hard time. And that energy can come from finding out the truth about things. Maybe people thought they were doing something good and realized that what they did is not what they thought it was. And so that can lead and kind of push people into it. Reality feels too hard, too challenging for a lot of people. That can push them into the drug addictions, the drinking and things like that that go on. And so this is naturally a tendency that we have. When we don't like something that's going on, we escape to those things. Now, the challenge with that is because we do have the death energy on the year, we do have the big transformation energy going on. People's bodies may not be able to handle those drugs and addictions like they normally do. And so, it is very likely in the news that we're going to see more reporting about that going on. And again, whether that is a cover for something or whether that is actually it, but this feeling of people just not being able to handle things well or deal with things well. And again, it doesn't mean that they're automatically going to commit suicide, but, we could be seeing more that are connected to, like I said, the drugs, the alcohol, things like that. And that, might just be people going more into their addictions, or it could be people that are because they don't like the way life is going, basically, or it could be people who, um, go too far with it, go too far and use it as a catalyst to try to get out. Now, people oftentimes that are feeling this, and one of the things that happens in this monthly energy is they're feeling very triggered. They're feeling very triggered about where they feel enslaved, where they feel like they're unable to enjoy life. And this can trigger a lot of rebellion energy. It can trigger a lot of backlash going on. So we might see some uprisings coming up. And those uprisings, those protests that are going to be going on, they're most likely going to be connected to those things that are hitting people directly. So if they feel confined, if they feel restricted, if they feel like I can't even pay my bills without working 3 or 4 jobs, this is going to start to create backlash in people, much more than what we've seen prior to now. And a lot of this is going to be centered around things like the cost of living. It's going to be centered around, hey, we can't even pay for our cost of living, and the government's funding other countries. You want to, the same people that want to take away our Social Security are funding other countries. They want to send billions and billions of dollars to other countries. And so, this is going to create a lot of uprising, because there's going to be more coming up around that type of thing, as in you won't take care of your own people here in your own country, but you're going to send this money outward. And, the US is probably guiltier than that of any other country out there, because the US is like the biggest funder of who? The biggest funder of WF, the biggest funder of UN, and they've been the biggest funder of the Ukraine war. So these are the things that are going to start to stir up trouble, at least in the US. We're going to see that. In other places, it could just be the hardships. When you look at the UK and things like that, where they've come down and they keep restricting usage for people, and they keep starting to restrict where people could go. We're starting to see some things kind of close up again. They're trying to impose restrictions in certain areas on things. So that's going to be a big thing. Now, from the 1st through the 21st of March, we are going to see some challenges to finances and health. And this is a big thing, because I would imagine, and it's probably already started. We know it's already, the rumblings are out there. Mainstream media is starting to rumble about it, and the WHO is starting to rumble about it, and things like that. So when it comes to this, we very well could start to massively hear about the spread of the flu virus, the spread of, there is a particular virus of the Ebola family that is floating around, and they're going to use this. So even if it doesn't infect a lot of people, overall, they're going to use the scare tactics of how deadly it is. To do it. It's called the Marburg virus. And so that is going to put a lot of people into fear, which is going to throw them into those addiction patterns, which is going to, then cascade into the suicides and the other things, or various things like this. So again, the scary thing about something like this is, for example, in the US, the President Biden just turned over the ability for health to be governed by the WHO, and that's not a good thing. So that could be one of the things that also creates an uprising going on for people. Also, the cost of living increases. Again, people not being able to just take care of basic needs, not being able to give themselves what they need to stay healthy, could be a real core piece for a lot of people coming up during this time. And that's going to be hard, because a lot of people are going to be looking at it like, hey, I can't afford to stay home from work. This cost of living has gone up too much, and now I can't afford to stay home from work. But man, if I get sick, this is not a good thing either. And so people are going to have to be careful. If you're working from wisdom, you're going to learn your boundaries. You're going to realize, okay, I need to do some extra self-care. I might need to adjust my diet. Eat things with more proteins, the fatty meats, the fishes, and things like this, the eggs. I know they're expensive, but if it makes the difference in you staying well, that is an important thing. You know, people who are vegan are going to have to find their options for things, because a lot of stuff is not going to support them. They're going to need those essential fatty acids in their diet. So, you know, however they're going to get that, they're going to have to figure out how they're going to get that, keeping the immunity boosted up. So this is going to be a really good month to make sure that we're boosting our immunity, our systems up, we're getting the extra rest, things like that, because our bodies are more vulnerable individually and as a whole. And if our bodies are more vulnerable to things, then it's easier for us to catch something. And then we have a lot of things going on in the world, like the balloons and the train explosions and earthquakes and things like that, which are putting people in unhealthy conditions and making them more easy to catch things. So if you have things floating around in your air, your water systems, you know, your buildings have been crumbling, you're going to have a lot of dust, you're going to have a lot of particles in the air. And so it's very important that if you have that ability to find the ways to clean things out in your body and to keep your body cleaned out. Now, you know, let's say you're a person, you're like, hey, I can't afford all of the supplements. I can't afford those things. And, you know, I'm a person that works with food. I don't really work with supplements myself much. I do that very, very little, unless I'm doing, you know, like a particular cleanse for my body a couple of times a year, or, you know, clearing parasites or something like that, which I do just as part of a health protocol. But, you know, on a day-to-day basis, there's not a lot I can do. But if you're in that position and it's like you are pinched literally to every penny, and you have no leeway whatsoever, you can look at things like baking soda. You can do a little bit of baking soda in hot water. It will help to alkalize the body. It will help to, you know, allow the body to process and to move things and to cleanse naturally. So that is an option. Again, be careful, look up how to do it appropriately. You know, I'm not a doctor on things, but I've had a lot of experiences with health things along the way. And I've been there where I literally was pinching every penny and had to find these cost-effective solutions to take care of myself. So they are out there. And, you know, pick the advice, listen to some people who are well versed in the health industry. I mean, Andrea Beeman, she's a great person to go to. She's got a great background in a lot of different things, and understands a lot of the integration of things in there. And, you know, she puts out a lot of great articles, for example. So anyways, keep yourself up, keep yourself healthy. And I do think that this 1st through the 21st could be definitely a time where we see this a virus start to surface. And we've heard about it. Gates has been talking about it for a while. WHO has been talking about it for a while. They've been touting the next pandemic in here. And this is not to be scary, but it's just a warning so that you can go out and start to prep yourself. And you can go out and get some things on hand so that if something does come down the line, God forbid you should be hit by something, or somebody around you or in your household, you've got things ready to go to handle it and to take care of it. Now, this is a time too that we're also going to see a lot of disconnection from others going on. Now, this disconnection could be forced on us, or this good disconnection could be by choice. So if something was to break out in the world like a virus, you'll have those people that are like, nope, I'm going to just disconnect from everybody. I'm going to stay in my home. It's also, though, a time that in the codes is indicating isolating, processing, restrictions, closures. And so we very likely during this time period can see the restrictions and the closures could be coming down there. We could see attempts to close people down again, to confine people again. And that is not going to be a good thing when people are already looking at escaping reality. From the 22nd onward, the good thing about that is even if these restrictions and these fear tactics and things that come on, we have a component in the codes that blocks corruption. So that means that anybody that's going down these paths, these world leaders who decide to impose restrictions or anything like that along the way, they're going to get blocked in the last third week of the month. And so they're not going to actually be able to implement the things that they want. So when I look at that, I'm thinking, at best, we're going to have a 2 or 3 week lockdown. And I think that's kind of like the worst case scenario. Maybe more moderate aspects are they're going to try to do like mask enforcing again or something like that. They're going to try some of those things. But the good news again is if they go in that direction, a lot of things are going to backfire on them. They will not be able to carry through with things, and they will hit blocks and obstacles. So the whole point is where we see the blocks happening, there are things that are not in divine alignment, and we need to take time to bring them into divine alignment. It is that opportunity for us to look and say, how can we be in service for people? But we're also going to have our guard up, because during that last part of the month, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to take advantage of people that are in a desperate situation. In other words, it's like, I know you can't get anybody else to come in and do this, or you can't get this product or this food or whatever that you need from anybody but me. So I'm going to jack the prices up. And in some places, this is not legal to do, but people do it anyways. So we're going to have to be very careful. It's a time that we want to pull together, look at those who are really in need, look at those who really can't do much to take care of themselves. You have the elderly, you have people that are, physically challenged, whatever you want to say in there, and they might need a helping hand. And so be open to that without needing to have to get something in return. Maybe you go to the store and you pick up groceries for, your elderly neighbor or whatever, so that they don't have to go to the store. They don't have to deal with certain things. It's just taking that little step to be in kindness. It's just taking that step to, consider how we can help each other out in these times, because we need to come together as humanity, not this side versus that side. And yes, it's great to have that diversity. It's great to have some different opinions going on. But that being said, we have got to come together as humanity, because we are never going to be able to deal with this corruption or bring it to a point that it is not impacting people's lives and hurting people. We're never going to be able to bring it in check until we start to come together, until we start to work with each other regardless of our differences. And this is going to be an important thing. So deception is going to be also really high, that period from the 22nd to the end of the month. So people, again, they're going to try to get away with things. They're going to lie about things. They're going to try to manipulate people. Maybe they have the product sitting in the back of the, warehouse area, but they don't want to pull it out and put it on the shelf. There's going to be a lot of things. And more so, what's going to be even tough with this type of deception at this time is that it's going to be a lot of little white lies. So people saying maybe that they did something that they didn't do, maybe they got this, some people say, oh yeah, no, I didn't get the jab and they got the jab, or vice versa, or whatever. So a lot of little white lies, a lot of non-disclosure stuff going on, kind of like, oh, well, we just didn't tell you about that. We didn't lie about it, but we didn't tell you about it. Or, well, 80% of what I said was true. Or I just didn't think you could handle it. Or I just wanted to protect your feelings. Well, this is not a time for us to worry about protecting feelings. We need to put the truth out there, and we need to be open and honest with people. And these little white lies trip us up, and we're going to have to be careful of them. And likewise, we're going to have to be careful. What are other people telling us? And we're going to have to do our research in this time. So lots and lots of research that is going on for us, and take the time to do it, because it is well worth it. Because you know what, that little white lie could turn very detrimental. And that's not to scare people, but what we think can be so innocent could make the difference in somebody's life at some point. And that's just not what we want to do. We want to be standing there in that full integrity along the way, because that truth, that integrity, that is our shield. That is our way through. That is our protection. And that is the way we're going to get through things, is through the truth and the integrity. This is a time in this last part of the month of March that we must face and embrace reality, even if we don't like it. And this is a hard one for a lot of people, because that is the only way we can make the changes that we need to make. That is the only way that we're going to be able to move forward and create a stable and favorable future. And this is about looking at things, and this is going to call people to look at everything very openly and to say, look, I'm going to research everything, whether this is the person that I normally back or don't back in things. And because there is so much deception going on and has been going on, we need to really take a careful look and look at people from moment to moment. Where are they here? Where are they there? Saying, I'm not going to absolutely support this person 100% of the time, or that person 100% of the time. I want to look at what they're doing, and I'm going to support what is right and in divine alignment, period. No matter who that is. And that means that we're going to have to look at some of the people that we've been supporting and perhaps saying, oh, that's maybe not such a great thing. You know, we're going to have to look at people and recognize and be willing to admit and face the reality when somebody that we've been supporting is going down the wrong path, is going down a path that is detrimental for people. So again, keep your openness, keep your open mind, do your research, and we need to be able to face reality, whatever that is. But if we don't embrace the reality of our situations, we're going to keep creating more and more issues for ourselves. We're going to keep, when we don't embrace reality, then we're turning over our power, we're turning over our control to our governments, to leaders that have no interest in us, that are organizations like WEF, and it's all about money. It's all about materialism. It's all about them getting more and putting everybody else in poverty and putting everybody else in positions to suffer while they're flying around in their private jets. I mean, Bill Gates just said this recently. I mean, it's like, oh, well, I'm entitled to fly my private jet, even though all the rest of you have to give up all of your stuff and suffer because I'm doing this for the world. Therefore, I don't have to abide by it. They're flat out telling you this. You can go into their videos, you can go into their talks, their interviews, and hear all this for yourself. It's not hidden out there at all. You just have to go find it. You just have to look it up, is all you have to do. So we need to face the reality of where we are at, whether that is dealing with wars, whether that is information wars, whether that is biological warfare that's going on, whether that is these controls that are going on, these attempts to dehumanize people, these attempts to transition into new world order systems, to whatever it is, we're going to have to face the reality of it. If we don't face the reality of it, we're going to become victims of it. If we do face the reality of it, then we have a chance to change things. We have that opportunity to turn things around, and we have the opportunity to stand up and say, look, we're done supporting you. We're done funding your organizations. We are done funding your apparent humanitarian things which are destroying people. And that's kind of where we're going to head with that. Now, also through the 1st through the 25th, we have corruption will be at a point of reacting. So we're going to get a lot of backlash from those that are in corruption. They're losing ground. They're going to be seeking revenge. So again, that fits right in with releasing that virus, that releasing of a virus, that bringing that out into the open, the scare tactics, the lockdowns, things like that. That is going to be the result of them being upset because they're being brought down. It's going to be a reaction for divine progress happening, for progression made for God or divine presence in the world. And what they're going to do in this process as part of the backlash is try to really humiliate and discredit those people that are standing with God, those people who are fighting the corruption, who don't want to comply with what they're doing. Um, uh, and so this all comes down to plans being defeated. During this time, we're also going to have some reality of the fact that indeed we are more in a war. And besides, say, something like a virus, I mean, they could be looking to use lockdowns because of war aspects that are going on. We are likely to see the military become very active in these first 3.5 weeks of March. And so that again can play out in a few different ways. The Navy in particular is going to become very active. So we want to watch our waters. We want to, in some ways, they're going to become active or may even take charge of things that are going on. So that's kind of an interesting component. And do I know exactly how that's going to play out? I don't. But could there be something going on where we have more forces out in the waterways to protect the water areas? Could that be part of protecting infiltration that's coming in through the boats, through human trafficking that's being brought in through boats right now? That's a big thing that's happening. We see that in Australia, we see that in Europe, we see that in America. So a lot of different countries dealing with that. We've also got, so that's going to be interesting because again, we know that the military is kind of split. We've got good guys and we've got bad guys in the military. And you've got one faction of the military, which is promoting and supporting the corruption. You have another faction of the military, which is fighting against it. So that may even become more evident. And we'll have to see whether the military is being used to try to carry out corrupt plans. We could see that if somebody like the WHO tries to do forced vaccinations or something like that on people for some reason. These are the types of things that we just have to keep our guard up. It doesn't automatically mean that they're going to happen, but we need to keep our guard up. We need to be aware. We need to watch what's happening, and we need to pay attention even if we don't like it. We don't have to reside in it. We don't have to reside in all of the fear, but we do want to be aware, because if we're not aware, we're going to get ourselves in trouble. Okay. Now, we also have assassination energy that comes up very big in this time. So remember how that connects with the escaping reality. While they're in the month energy, we can definitely see that assassination, what we might have is a lot of assassinations that they try to make look like suicides, or they try to make them look like drug overdoses, but they're really assassinations. So we'll probably see assassination attempts or possibly even an actual assassination on those that are working against the corruption. So that could be even civilian. We could have some civilian assassinations going on, and we're probably going to have some prominent ones going on as well. So we're going to have to be careful, but it's also something to pay attention to in there. Another way that assassination can play out is in self-defense. So we're really going to have to watch, because it's going to be very, very eye-opening where that happens. Assassination attempts could come forward as a means for trying to control people, or to make a point with people who are not willing to comply with things. We've seen that in Tiananmen Square in China before. So it would not be surprising for them to carry out something like that again. Even when we don't like, again, some of these world leaders, like, a lot of people, they don't like Putin, they don't like Xi, but there are times that maybe they are doing the right thing, even if they're not necessarily the leaders we want to give into or comply to or have running our country. So, again, we're going to have to filter through some things, but you want to pay attention to see, because most of the time, the assassinations are going to be done by the corruption to the people who are working in integrity. And those in power are relying a lot on partnerships to protect them. And this is a big thing that came out at Davos as well. Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. And so we have been actually seeing this a lot, where there have been people like Dr. Simone Gold that have been going through, the guy from Project Veritas, and I'm drawing a blank on his name's James O'Keefe, where they started these companies up and their board of directors is now throwing them off. Because like this comes with James O'Keefe's situation, it came right after he exposed Pfizer and got the inside story on Pfizer. So here again, we're going to see more of this partnership coming in, and some of our information sources that have been there, they're either going to have to recreate on their own, or they are going to, they're going to be under this the censorship, under this confinement. They're going to be getting tossed off of their boards. So that's something that we very easily can see going on. That's another way of, that's another form of assassination in a way. Assassination can be literal, but it can also be the defiling of character. It can also be the termination of them from a position of power or say or authority or something like that. That can be another way to try to maintain control for the corrupt, and to get them again. That a lot of mudslinging, in a sense, a lot of just disgracing people and things like that going on. But when you look at it, you have people that are, those people that are running the UN, WF, and the WHO, for example, in particular, because they're going to be big players in these upcoming month or two here in March and April. And they are partnering with people. They're doing a lot of payoffs with people to get what they want. So it's not that, say, the doctors agree with the UN or WHO or the CDC or things like that, but that they are being threatened, that they are being forced into doing something. And, that becomes a big thing, because where we have the medical aspects, the health things not being as strong as well. If doctors won't do certain things, if they don't want to comply to certain rules, then we have people without medical care. So it really is going to be a strange, interesting web, but a lot of these are going to start partnering with private organizations, private companies. So a lot of your larger companies are going to be susceptible to these partnerships. So this brings me back to what I often say, which is do business, small business, local people, know who you're doing business with, and and look at these things, because if they're partnered with these bigger organizations, if they're partnered with some of these bigger companies, chances are they are going to be so-called at the mercy of what those companies want or what these organizations want. And they're going to try to pull as many partnerships as they can in order to gain control, because that's one of the things that they felt wasn't strong enough in our pandemic in 2020, was that they didn't have enough partnerships coming down and enforcing their rules for them. And that's what it comes down to. They're using businesses to enforce their rules. They're using the medical industry to force their rules. And they're doing it through funding, through saying, if you don't do this, we won't fund you anymore. And this is, that puts a lot of people under, and a lot of people, instead of standing in integrity, cave to that. Or we will, destroy your reputation and you'll never work again, or things like this. So, or we'll have you fired, or we'll, whatever it is. So that's kind of the plan. And we're going to have to stand strong against that as individuals, as citizens, as, if you're a business owner, you're going to have to stand up to this. And we're going to have to stand up and say, no, we're not going to tolerate it. And if businesses are going to play these games, then we're going to have to say, no, we're not going to do business there. And, this is a very, very important thing for us to stay on top of. Now, those that are working for the people are going to come under attack. So that means a lot of our truth community is going to come under attack during this month, probably trying to be silenced. leaders that are trying to work for the people and do things for the people and protect them, they are going to come under attack this month. Churches that don't comply will come under attack this month. You know, our churches are on the forefront for you here for this particular year of 2023. We're going to see all kinds of things. The military can definitely come into action during this time. You know, I talked about them becoming active during this time, and one of the ways that we may see them become active is that they may remove people from power that are corrupt. So these corrupt people are not necessarily just going to step down. They're going to have to be removed from power. But how does this happen? It happens from the people refusing to accept the corruption. And so we may actually see the military removing people. So we may see forceful removal from office on people, and that's going to be kind of a big thing. And, you know, yeah, if they don't step down, and I think a lot of these people, I think they're going to be given the opportunity to step down, but they're not necessarily going to do it. And so that's going to cause that forced removal. Now, the 26th through the end of the month, so just those last few days of the month, we can expect a lot more drama coming up around exposure. So you've got to figure, if you've got these attempted lockdowns, then the lockdowns get blocked, and then people are asked to step down from office. They don't step down from office, and then they're forcefully removed. Well, you can expect the Antifa groups, you can expect the riots coming up, you can expect drama coming up anywhere that there's exposure going on. We're going to see a lot more drama. So there's going to be distractions trying to be made to keep us from focusing on what the real issues are. We're going to have to say, yeah, I'm not looking at that distraction. You know, save your drag queen shows, because that's not going to distract me anymore, and look at what's really happening. Look at what they're trying to cover up. Look at what they're trying to ignore. And I think this is going to backfire even more on the mainstream media, because when they refuse to cover what's going on, that's going to wake people up on the next level, because the issues that they're not reporting on will become such big news. So they're either going to be forced to report on it, or they are going to be under fire for not reporting on it. So that's a huge thing. A lot of exposure that is going to be coming out, that's going to be creating the drama going on at that time in those last few days, is going to be connected to seeing who the hidden networks are, and who the hidden networks are to those people in power. So we're going to see more connections between Ukraine and the oligarchs and the networks with WHO, because there's a lot of networks with UN and the WHO, and then the so-called humanitarian or philanthropic organizations and their connections in with those organizations. And so we're going to start seeing that massive web of networks unfolding in these connections. And this is part of the downfall, or part of the blocks that come up from these people who are not working in divine alignment, because what they're going to do is they're going to try to implement all these private networks and partnerships that they put an emphasis on, and then that's going to expose the whole network system, is what it's going to be, and people are going to start to see that. So the good side of that is we're likely to gain a lot of clarity about who and who is not in a true leader, who and who is not connected with who. And so I see, you know, that unfolding a lot, which is going to be kind of cool on one hand, cool on one hand, but also challenging. I think, you know, here again, those are some of the things that could tip people over the edge. It could tip them back into the addictions. It could tip them into the suicides. It could tip, you know, tip them into these different desires to escape reality. Then we have from the 3rd of the month, March 3rd to March 19th, I think for me personally, when I look at everything, I think this is going to be the most intense period of things. I think that this is where we are going to see the most restrictions, the most challenging pieces coming forward during March. I see here that there's There's an indication during this time of major power battles going on among those in power. And when I look at that energy, given where our world is at right now, it's during this time period that we could very likely see China and Russia team up. It's kind of like, nope, we're gonna have to team up and partner in order to beat this other corruption that's out there. So that's going to make for some interesting things. It's going to be a very tough time for people mentally and psychologically. So if you're a person who has got a strong nature and you've been dealing with a lot of your own stuff up to now, and you've faced your anxieties and you've faced things, and you're more alert to things that are happening, you may need to be there for some people, because there's a lot of people that are going to have a tough time with what goes down during this period. And for a lot of people, it could, it can break them in a lot of ways. And again, it is that mental and psychological challenge, because so much of this is a mental warfare that's going on, that will push them into those addictions, that will push them over the edge on ways. So again, we need to be alert to the people around us that we love and we care about, and to be there for them and to take the time for that. A lot of attempts, a lot of mental battles going on, a lot of attempts to break the spirit. And again, that fits right in. If they did try to do some sort of lockdown or shutdown at this time, this is really going to break the spirits of a lot of people. And that is going to be hard for a lot of people. So we're going to have to stand strong. We have to realize that this is a temporary phase and it's not going to last forever. These are temporary things and they suck to go through, and there's no doubt about them. But we are going to have to find ways to become mentally strong. Maybe you want to go check out my other my other YouTube channel, my regular videos, the getting through life videos. Maybe you want to pick up the book, Go Journey, and look at that for how to maneuver through life. And you're going to have to draw on some of these things, and you're going to need to draw on your friendships and your connections to help keep you going, and you're going to need to be there for them. That's the reality of where we are with these mental battles. They're not pretty, and it is really an attempt to break the spirit by removing material things from people, making them uncomfortable, making them feel as if they're suffering, feel in these deprivation spaces. But the reality of it is we are not, and we have to keep that in mind. We are not in deprivation. This will not last forever. They, we know as the end of the month comes in that they are going to shift gears, and it's not going to be, they're not going to be able to carry through a lot of things. So yes, it can get very scary during this period, but we need to keep that bigger aspect in mind, that that even when it gets scary, we just need to be able to prepare to handle the rough spots. It's like when a big storm is going to come in. So you go to the store, you stock up on some, dry goods and things that will not be perishable, and you get yourself ready for the storm. You have some extra batteries on hand, or, extra blankets on hand, or whatever you need to get through that storm. And extra water on hand, things like that. So you stock up and you're ready for the storm. And a lot of times, if we make those preparations, then we can get through things without too much trauma in them. And that's kind of where I see some of these aspects as well. If we're prepared, if we're ready to sit back and go, okay, well, let's say if this does happen, what would I like to get done during those 2 weeks? Do I want to paint a room? Do I want to clean the closets out? Do I want to, what do I want to do during that time? What are my opportunities during that time? What can I do to keep my spirits up? Maybe I'll do a detox during that time. Maybe, all kinds of possibilities that you can do to benefit yourself when tough times come down. During this time, again, a lot of the corruption's using a lot of private partnerships and networks to help break people down and to force compliance. So again, we're going to have to stand up. We're going to have to stand our ground. We're going to have to not allow that tyranny to happen. We're going to have to say, fine, you're going to participate in this. I'm not buying from you. I'm not shopping with you. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And again, this isn't going to be a permanent thing, but if we don't stand up and say no, they won't stop. And so we've got to stand our ground on these things. The information battles, as those come down during this time, the 3rd through the 19th of the month, we're going to see a lot of censorship going on, because what happens if you lock people down, if you shut them in, they're going to start researching things. They're going to start looking for information. They're going to start finding things out. And heaven forbid, they can't have you find out the truth. So what they're going to do is they're going to start with that censorship up. They're going to get really strict probably with some of that. They're going to do things that they're going to put out very controversial topics to trigger people, to get them battling with each other, to get them arguing about things. They're going to use the media to disperse a lot of lies, which will create more arguments between people. I mean, just think what we went through in 2020 with masks, with vaccines, and some of that is still going on with people. And so again, we're going to have to sit down, get into the truth, get to the back pages, do what we can. But again, that's going to be another layer of waking people up. If you go online to search about a virus, or you go online to search about, the truth for something, you just want to find some general information, and the only thing that you get up is government information, CDC information, NIH information, that type of thing. Then information by the WHO, that is all controlled information. And so right there, there's a full censorship going on if that's the only thing you're allowed to see. And that is going to wake people up too. Like, oh my goodness, they're controlling everything that we see. We can't even see anything else. We can't even get to, say, Dr. Simone's opinion or some other doctor's opinion on something. We're going to have to dig, and you're going to have to connect with those people that have the ability to get in there and do some of this digging and to bring it out and help you see it. So find those connections of people, find your credible sources in times, you'll find them out there. A lot of people like Epoch Times and things, but you'll find them. And do your own research. Don't let yourself be stopped just because it's a little challenging to get through some of that in there. There's going to be a lot of using the media to confuse people, overwhelm them. That's all part of trying to get people to break down. They're going to focus on making people feel deprived and hopeless, and trying to convince them to rely on government. That's a big part of what this is all about, is really turn your power over to the government type of thing. And we cannot let ourselves go down that path of hopelessness. I'm not saying to ignore the truth. Very much I want you to embrace and deal with reality and to face it. But we've got to hold hope in that. We can't let our hope be totally broken in that process. We need to make sure that we don't buy into that hopelessness mindset, that we don't buy into the deprivation. Just because things get tough for a little bit doesn't mean that we're totally deprived. We just have to draw on our resources, on our skills, on our assets. We need to come together and say, great, you have a skill in this area, and I have a skill in this area, and this person has a skill in that other area. And when we start bringing our skills together, guess what? We're just fine. And if we start realizing, look, I don't have to go to this big box store or this big corporation store to get something. I can go to my local farmer. I can go to this local person in my town, and you can find the resources there. It's amazing once you start to look a little bit what you can find. And again, don't be defeated by that process, because we definitely are not deprived. This is just a big psyop to get you to turn things over to the government. And that is the last thing we want to do, because the government is not working in our best interest right now. And a lot of the people that are in charge of governments around the world are trying to break people down and bring them under total submission. And that is never going to be the answer. We need to decentralize. We need to move away from so much government control. at this point, because we've given them too much control at this point. So we need to move away from that more. Verbal and mental abuse is going to be called on for people. We're going to see a lot of people that are going to be paid to do this. So, a lot of these TikToks of these crazy people out there, and these Instagram things of these crazy people doing these crazy things, and these things that seem like strange violent outbreaks. And, they're always being filmed. It's like there's always somebody there that's filming all of this BS. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of these people are paid to do it, and they're having somebody film them do this violence or do this aspect of abusing people verbally, mentally, or even physically. And they're being paid to do this. So they have somebody videotape them so that they can prove that they did the act that they've been asked to do, and then they get paid. And depending on what they do in the act, if they take it to level 1, they get paid one thing. If they take it to level 2, they get a bonus. And if they get paid, if they do at level 3, they get another bonus of it. If they draw other people in unsuspectingly and stuff, then they get more money for it. A lot of this stuff is paid people. These people are being paid to be this dramatic. They're being paid to do these abuses to people. We've got to be very, very careful with this. And we've got to, a lot of these attacks are going to be made on those people who are being non-compliant. And you're going to have to toughen your skin up a little bit in this process. You're going to have to toughen up and say, who cares? If that person's going to be that way, that's on them. That's their doing. I'm just not going there with them. I'm just not going to be a part of it. And, people are going to probably be rude, and they're probably going to be nasty during that time. And again, part of this is the tension. Part of this is not wanting to deal with reality. Part of this is the confinement. Part of this is the mental warfare. You see, you've got all of these components coming down at once in March, which is really, it's a lot, and there are a lot of people that cave into that. And then you put people in these desperate modes, and it's like they do almost anything for money. And we've got to stand strong against that. We've got to stand in spirit. We've got to stand in the soul self. We've got to stand with God. It's, we've got to not cave in to that direction so that we can, again, create that more favorable area to move in. So this, again, people will be paid to attack the non-compliers. They're going to be those people who are standing in the soul self, those people who are choosing divine alignment instead of going along with the narratives and the confinement and all those other things. We'll see attempts during this time to isolate people and prevent them from being self-reliant or meeting their needs. So again, we're going to see a lot of this. Oh, well, you don't want to wear a mask. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. Well, you can't shop anymore. Oh, you don't want to do this. Well, we'll put a freeze on your bank account. Oh, you want to speak out and tell somebody the truth? Yeah, well, we've just frozen your funds. You won't have access to them. These are the types of things that we are looking at in this process. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to tell you it's all going to be an easy ride. I'm just here to give you that heads up of what's going down the line, and to give you a chance to prepare yourself and to put yourself in a position to ride through this 2-3 week period of time until things start to ease up, so that you can get yourself through things and see what's coming, so that you don't get caught in this drama and these narratives. So here again, it's always going to be in the name of your protection. Well, it's not in the name of your protection. It's in the name of personal self-interest to make the wealthier, and to deprive you of more and more of your rights and things. They're going to try to prevent people from accessing basic needs in this period of time, especially in areas of high corruption. So think California, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C. in particular. These are going to be areas of high corruption. These are going to be areas that, they're probably going to try to ration people from the very basic needs. And when I say the basic needs, I mean heating, air conditioning, possibly water, food. They might try to claim that they have to do food rationings in these areas. They're going to tell people they can't drive or charge their electric vehicles because, you know, some of them have put those things into place where that's what they have to have in those states. So they're gonna try to hit them right at the basic needs. And again, I think a lot of that is going to backfire on people because people are going to be looking around. Well, those states aren't doing that. Those states aren't having to lock down like us. Those states aren't having to do this. And so I think that, again, that's going to wake a lot of people up. Like, why is just our states like this and the other states are not like that? But again, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to get through just because people start getting aware. But, you know, again, a lot of it is people will go through this period and then towards the very end of the month, they'll get that exposure. They'll start to see what's going on, and hopefully we'll have more people standing in awareness about what's happening. The key during this time is we have to start finding ways to turn the tables. And realize, again, challenges, and no matter how tough they are, they're going to be temporary. And that's the piece to hold on to. We have to say no to the narratives that divide us. We have to say no to being pitted against each other. We have to say no to being broken up and broken down. And we want to partner with those people who are in fairness and integrity, those people who truly are standing in the truth, even if you don't like what the truth is. We need to become resilient to make it during this time. I mean, that's really the bottom line. So again, you know, hang in there with it. We got a lot of stuff that's going on. From the 20th on, so as we start to get in the last part of March, we've got to stand up for what is right without battle or rebellion. Okay, don't let others provoke you into reaction. That's not going to solve anything. That's not going to help anything. That's just going to keep you lost and distracted and on a detour while other things are being put into place. Because when they provoke you into reaction, it is a trap. You know, we saw this with Kamala and some other leaders. Maxine Waters was another one we saw this with. Where they went out and they started demonizing people and literally said for, you know, people to go attack people who thought differently than them. And if we react on the moment in that spot and we let them provoke us, then it will be a trap. And they will use that reaction against us. They will use it to validate that, look, those people are dangerous. See, I told you they were dangerous. And so we can't fall into those traps. If you feel that trigger, if you feel that reaction coming up, you've got to double up into the integrity and the truth. You've got to double up into the soul self. And then you've got to use the law and you've got to use facts. And that's how you stand up for yourself. That is how you stand up to the injustices, and you blow their narratives down with truth, with facts, with the law. And that is what we have to use during this time. We can't get wrapped up in these he said, she said, petty arguments and battles that way, because they will take that, they will use it against people, they will jail them, they will do whatever they have to do. In some stricter countries like, you know, China and stuff, they'll take them to the camps. They'll take them off to other places just for speaking up. So we have to stay in the truth, in the integrity, in the facts, and within the law when we stand up. So take that reaction, let it be your inspiration, and then take appropriate action from there. Lies, deception, manipulation, all of that's going to be rampant. And again, they'll use the lies, deception, manipulation. They'll do that out specifically to trigger people. Finding the truth is going to be really hard during this time. Again, you know, you're going to have some of that censorship going on, but you can find it. Just be persistent. Don't give up on it. Do your research, pull the actual facts on things. Victory is going to happen when we stand in divine alignment. That is where we're going to obtain our victory. We're not going to fight corruption with more corruption. You're not going to be able to fight lies with lies. Yes, you have to be strict and stern sometimes with these people in corruption because they don't understand any other language. But that being said, you can still do it in a way that is in divine alignment and in truth and with integrity. And when you do that, you're going to wake up even more people. You're going to bring even more people into awareness about things. And that is what a lot of people are looking for, is not just the standard battle. They're looking for who's actually in that space of alignment, truth, and integrity. This is our opportunity, and is during this time, and this is the good thing, even though we have that provocation energy going on, is that we can overcome long-standing challenges. So this corruption that has been going on for a long time, we actually have the ability to start overcoming these pieces if we do it with truth, integrity, and lawfully. We want to use caution, we want to be practical, and we want to be responsible in what we do. So these are all huge things, err to the side of caution, as they say. We don't want to become the radical extremist. That's not the space that's going to serve anybody on any side of the fence to be in that radical position. We need to use caution. We need to use practicality. We need to be responsible. We've got to come from reasonable spaces and move forward with it. That is going to help us succeed. From the 1st through the 16th, so during the first half of the month, we've got to be really careful that we're not selling out the soul's path for materialism. So again, when they're coming through and they're trying to push people, like they did when they first brought out the jabs, and they said, oh, if you go get this, we'll give you a donut. We'll give you a free Happy Meal. We'll do this. We'll do that. We need to not sell out for the materialism. It's very, very important we stay strong on the soul's path. There are going to be betrayals coming up. And again, a lot of that's going to be because of the lies and the things that are put out through the media. That is going to be because the conflicts that they're promoting at that time, that corruption promotes at that time. And those betrayals are going to be hard. They're going to be hard to take. They're going to be people that we thought would always have our back or always be there with us. And, again, we're going to have to stand strong. And when it all blows over, maybe they'll apologize, maybe they won't, who knows? But, we're going to have to stand strong. Again, if you're standing in the truth, the integrity, the divine alignment, you're going to come through this. These things are not going to be easy, but we're going to have to just let go and let God, as they say, let God take care of the things that you can't take care of. Those that are in materialism are going to be the ones that are going to be creating battles. Those seeking the power and the control are going to be the ones creating the battles. So we need to be strong even when others try to make you look bad. If you just keep standing in the truth, eventually the truth is going to be seen. Again, this is that it's an aspect of like bullying in a way. And so they're going to try to make you look bad, and that's that form of bullying, and then figuring either you're going to comply or break down or whatever. You just need to stand strong and not play into it in there, and realize that no matter what they say about you or how they make you look, that if you are standing in that truth, that integrity, that alignment, you are okay, and that you are absolutely fine. And you don't have to buy into those programs, the brainwashing and all of that they're attempting during that time. Illnesses rise. So again, I think that validates the release, the more bigger aspect of a virus or something coming through at that time. Again, that extra self-care is going to go a long way. Minimize your time with electronics, boost your vitamins, get your extra rest, all of those things I mentioned earlier. Boost your immunity system, your enzymes and metabolism and all of those things to do it, and do a cleanse if you need to do a cleanse, or whatever works for you personally to help keep your health strong. In there, get some fresh air. That goes a long way. Go spend a little time in the sun every day. That goes a long way to taking care of your body. Now, from the 17th through the end of the month, and we're down to the last little piece of this video, so thanks so much for hanging in there with me. our battles of power are going to intensify. So again, as the corruption starts to see in that second half of the month, oh, we're not getting our way. People aren't just complying with this. Oh, they're not caring that we're being bullies. They're not caring that we're calling them names or whatever else. Those power battles are going to intensify. And we talked about that. And that's probably, as the military will start to step in, probably around that third week of the month. We'll see more of that military stepping in as those power battles intensify. And those that are in service to people that are bringing hope of freedom and peace being restored, keep your faith in those. Keep your faith in those people who are taking the actions to help people, who are the leaders in power for that, and we need to support them. The tyrants are going to be falling from power during the last half of the month. Again, the codes talked about that removal from power. If they won't go willingly, if they're not going to resign, if they're not going to step out on their own, they will be forcefully removed. And so again, this is going to be a lot for people to take in. It's going to be a lot of strain mentally, emotionally, psychologically for people to do this. And they're especially going to fall from power where people become self-reliant. So again, that self-reliance, if you've stocked up a little bit so that you've got food to get by a couple of weeks, a month, whatever it is, the more that people are willing to stand up in that truth, that integrity, lawfully, the less they're willing to turn their power over to government structures and these other organizations, the more we're going to see the tyrants fall. So if you just stand in that self-sufficiency, that's going to make a huge difference in things. And the corrupt leaders are going to start falling by their own people. Their own inner circle is going to turn them in. So we're going to see a lot of that going on, which is going to get really interesting. And the other piece that's going to happen is they will start making some really careless mistakes, and that is going to expose them as well. So huge stuff going on. Huge stuff going on this month. So just, buckle up, strap the seatbelt on, get ready, maybe keep some good food in the cupboards to get through, and get ready for some good movie times for hope your internet stays up, and if not, get reconnected with nature during this time. So it is a month that is packed. It's a month that's packed. It's an intense month. And, I said it several times, but just remember, this is temporary. This is temporary, and it's all about us standing our ground and being self-sufficient and not battling with each other, because our battle is not with each other. Our battle is with the corruption. Our battle is with those people who are trying to destroy us as humanity. And again, we just need to pay attention. We just need to be aware. We don't need to live in the fears. We don't need to live in the programming or any of that, but we do need to be aware. And it is when we stand in the awareness, it is when we don't let the fear destroy us, but we let it motivate us, or we allow what is happening to fire us up enough to take action. That's when we turn our world around. That's when we change things. We can't sit back waiting for the right white knight, the proverbial white knight, to arrive. We have to take action in our everyday lives where we can. That starts with kindness. That starts with compassion, even when we disagree. That starts with being strong in ourselves. That starts with getting to really know the truth and really standing strong, really being strong in who you are, and having those resources that you can go to that can hold you up when you're not feeling so strong, having those people you can talk to. So with that, I'm going to cut it because I've been talking a long time, I'm sure. I will come back with you next month and check in and see what we have, going on for April next month. But in the meantime, I think I've given you plenty to work work with, plenty to stay on top of, and plenty to be aware of for March 2023. Again, check out my book, The Code Journey. This has all of this information in there, as well as how to get through life on Earth. So check it out. The website's compassioncodes.com, and the links are directly there to get you to the purchase pages. I have study sessions that go on twice a month, and I post those on my social media. And you just go over the goods tab, select The Code Journey. I do have some stores that carry it in stock. You can always check with them, or you can purchase through my website there. Again, it'll get you the links that you want, both ebook versions and paperback versions. And that'll keep you with even more of a full, complete heads up than what I give in these videos. Take care, everybody. See you soon.